You are listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, Episode 70, Sports Fiction with J.D. Dudycha. Take me out to the ball.
Writing a book. It can be the best way to build or grow your business, or to simply tell the story that you wish to tell. Learn how to write your book in 30 days or less. Pick up 30-day offer today from Amazon, Apple iBooks, or other online retailers.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. Don't idolize me, I'm just a guy in a closet trying to make his way. And that's a reference to me actually literally being in a closet right now. My wife had to stick around the apartment today and get some work done from home, and it was not working out with me in my usual spot, so we commandeered the closet, which ought to be some fun. Maybe not fun. It's actually not that bad. I'm kind of surrounded by clothes, and the environment's kind of, I don't know, a little close for my taste. I think I suffer from a little bit of claustrophobia and didn't realize it. Anyway, today we're actually talking to. Okay, well, before I introduce him, let me just say, I'm not a sports guy. I don't watch sports. I played a little bit of sports in school. I played baseball when I was really young. I played soccer when I was even younger, I think. Loved soccer, by the way. I did really good with it, but I didn't particularly enjoy playing baseball. I kind of did. I don't know. It goes back and forth. I have some horror stories about baseball. Maybe I'll share someday. But the thing is, I never really got into sports. I can see the value of sports. I understand why people get into it, especially when it comes to underdogs. Like, there are a lot of underdogs in sports. There are a lot of underdog stories in sports. So they can be a lot of fun. They can be very inspiring. A lot of metaphors that we use in daily life come from sports. So, I understand the appeal. There's a lot to it, a lot more to it than the game itself. So I do get it. And actually, my wife and I actually have become more interested in baseball. We've started going to games. We're thinking even of buying season tickets to our minor league team here in Sugarland. So there you go. Anyway, all that to say, sports was never something I paid a lot of attention to in any form, but especially not in literature. But today we're talking with I'm going to butcher the name. Let's try not to butcher the name, Kevin. I'm talking to J.D. Dudycha, who is he's an author, and right now his body of work consists of a couple of books that are sports themed. But he's looking to branch out into fantasy and that sort of thing later. But I actually kind of dig that he's writing fiction in a sports universe. There's something about that's different to me. It's something that there's a weird sort of appeal for me. I don't know why. I mean, because I am not a sports guy, So I don't know why that was such a draw, but it is. And this is an interesting interview. And it's about more than writing sports fiction, but I felt like that was kind of the best way to lead in. So you'll get a lot more out of this depending on what kind of fiction you're looking to write. I guess one of the things this proves is that no matter what you're into, you can write about it. No matter what holds your interest, there's probably a market out there for it. So don't let anything limit you. If you decide you want to write for a living, and I know not everyone who listens to this show is a writer, although you should be. But if you are an entrepreneur, the same applies. Whatever you're passionate about can be turned into a business. It's just fact. I mean, there are people out there. I lamented about this on Facebook recently. There's an Aleve commercial, and this woman is a photographer, and she says, "I take pictures of sunrises. That's my job and my passion." It nearly blew up my brain because I'm like, okay, I don't know how true that is. There may be someone out there whose sole job is to take pictures of sunrises. I'm not sure, but I'll bet there is someone out there making their living off of that. And if they can do that, you can make a living off of anything that you're passionate about. So all that aside, before we get into the interview, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you are interested in supporting the show financially, I would greatly appreciate that. It doesn't take much. I'm asking people for as little as $1 a month to just help me produce the show. You can check out my Patreon campaign. If you go to wordslingerpodcast.com and click on the Patreon logos on any given post there or on the homepage itself, you can also click on the Fund Me button in the menu, and that'll take you to the Patreon page where you can watch a little video about what the show's about and what my goals are and that sort of thing. I have this lofty goal of making the show financially independent, we'll say, so that it can pay for its way and grow at the same time. So I have this lofty goal of about $5,000 a month. That's my goal. Doesn't mean you have to chip in $5,000. Doesn't mean you have to chip in even $5. But if you would go and maybe dedicate at least $1 a month, that would help me out a great deal. So that said, and that's like a quarter an episode, by the way. All right, I don't want to push that too much. You can also help support the show by buying books. 30 Day Author, of course, is the one I use right now to advertise the show. If you're interested in being an author at all and making writing a daily part of your life, you can, I think I messed that up. I think what I meant to say was if you want to make writing a part of your daily life, then this book might be for you. It's geared a great deal towards entrepreneurs who want to use a book to kind of build their business and grow their brand and that sort of thing, and actually maybe even discover a little bit more about their business and themselves. But there is also an element to this if you want to be a fiction writer. Here's how you develop a daily writing habit that can help you meet that goal. So anyway, that's a good start. You can also pick up some of my fiction at kevintumlinson.com/books. Where you can find all kinds of fiction that keep you entertained. You can get on my mailing list and get 3 free books with my starter library. And all you got to do that is go to kevintumlinson.com/starter library. So here's the tip. Go to kevintumlinson.com and you can pretty much do all these things. That's my headquarters online. So no more of that. We're going to get now to the interview with JD, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. If you're a sports fan, I'd be curious to hear what your take is on sports fiction, even if you're not a sports fan. I'd love to hear that take. So you can give me a call, and that number is 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. Leave me a voicemail. Ask me a question. Ask me literally any question you want. If I can't answer it, I will find a way to, maybe I'll come up with some sort of answer. It may not be a serious answer. Who knows? So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your contributions and your help, and I appreciate all of it. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that after the interview, so stick around. And now, let's listen in on this interview with JD Dudycha. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in again, and this is going to be a great interview, I think. I'm talking to JD Dudycha, who's he's an author, and which is not surprising on this show. But he's got a couple of books out that are kind of outside the normal genre I would read, to be honest with you, JD. I'm not much of a sports guy, which is a lot of people find weird since I'm just outside of Houston, Texas, the football capital of the universe, according to some people. But you've got some sports-themed books, and I'm kind of anxious to talk to you about sort of where these come from and what you're writing about. So, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. And so you approached me a while back, and I'm glad we did. I know you've got a launch coming up, or has it already launched?
Well, my book comes out actually Monday the 15th.
February 15th for those listening, which is going to be a little after I'm able to get this posted, but not that far, I'm hoping. But we'll see what we can do with that. But what's the name of the book coming out?
It's called Sitting Dead Red.
I see. Okay. I see that right on your... I'm on your author page right now, by the way, and I see Paint the Black and Sitting Dead Red. Both of these are very intriguing covers, by the way. Very well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the book cover I feel like is the kind of, it feels like a first date. It's something that the readers will click through and will see on Amazon, and if they like what they see, they'll click further. If they don't, then they're not going to go any further. So that's why I think book covers are huge and tremendous to have a professionally designed cover. Absolutely.
So you do have a pro doing your work then?
Yes.
Did you go through like 99 Designs or something, or do you have somebody?
I found the artist on Goodreads.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, she was I was on a forum for indie published authors, and somebody had mentioned that they did a post on book cover designs, and so I was kind of talking to different people, and they suggested this artist, and I contacted the artist, and she's been amazing.
Oh, outstanding! Yeah, well, she's doing great work. I like the style of them. They're intriguing and they make me want to turn through. Even if I'm not much of a baseball fan, I would be interested in reading, I think. So, tell me a little about Paint the Black. What's the premise there?
So Paint the Black follows 3 seasons of a minor league baseball player. The main character, Jack Burke, gets drafted out of high school. He's an 18-year-old kid, gets drafted and thrust into professional baseball. And like I said, it kind of follows 3 seasons of his career. He goes through some ups and downs, follows some teammates in wrong directions, and gets into trouble and tries to battle through it. And then ultimately gets kind of drugged down a path of drugs and alcohol abuse, and through the story tries to fight that battle.
Okay, so that you're dealing with a lot of highly charged emotional topics in that, and I like the idea of you're using sports as kind of the wrapper for the whole thing. What brought that on?
Well, my background is in sports. So I played collegiately baseball for 4 years, and then I coached collegiately for over 6 years. So my background definitely lends itself to the sport. So I thought the sport, especially baseball, was a perfect backdrop for the first book and even the second book. But it's definitely not the main focus of either book. They're both character driven pieces. And you can essentially insert any profession inside those books, and I think it would work.
Right.
But it works well for me because I'm able to draw from my experience through the scenes that I write throughout the books.
And I'm curious about these because who exactly is the audience? Like, who are you noticing is reading your books?
A lot of people, or the people that I really wrote it for, would be men from ages basically 20 to 40.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a lot of women pick up the book, and they can also relate to it because I have a lot of strong female characters inside both books.
Yeah.
And I've been getting a lot of great, I guess, recognition, if you will, on Amazon, as well as some emails from different people, and even people that have never necessarily not heard of the sport but don't know a lot about the sport are resonating with the books because of how powerful the characters are inside of the books.
Right. Yeah. Well, and baseball is kind of that great American sport. Everyone knows something about baseball. So there's something relatable to it, I think.
Yeah, right. I mean, and people, I hope people can relate to it. Like I said, with the sport as being as popular as it is.
Yeah. Exactly. So, but this concept, by the way, I don't see this very often. The idea of tying fiction to sports in literature, anyway. I mean, you see the occasional book that's maybe about something goes wrong in the football world or something like that. But the idea of it being kind of a wrapper for the whole tale, I don't see that very often. Do you have peers or is there someone that does this that you aspire to be like?
No. The simple story, the simple truth of the matter is that, especially in Paint the Black and even in Sitting Dead Red, my next book, it's a lot of me. It's a lot of my own story throughout all the characters, not necessarily just the main character, but also the antagonist, as well as some minor characters throughout the book. It's me throughout the whole novel. So, in my opinion, it was kind of easy to write because I've lived a lot of the stuff that goes on inside of the books. So I can't really necessarily compare it to other authors. I just try to get the story out there and see, how people react to it. And so far it's been awesome.
Yeah. So what actually drew you to writing fiction then?
After I retired from the sport, I retired from coaching shortly after my son was born. And the first novel I actually ever wrote was a young adult novel, which I will come back to at some point. But it's such a disaster at this point.
That's the story of the first novel. That's
right.
Every first novel is sitting in a drawer somewhere.
Exactly. It was such a disaster that I was like, yeah, I should. I actually sent it out to some publishing houses and agents to see if I could get it picked up, but nobody bid on it. Mm-hmm. And so after that, I wrote another novella, which was a middle grade novella, And again, those are things that I want to go back to and eventually try to publish. But then Paint the Black came about, and it was a story that was, put on my heart. It was a story that I lived basically throughout the whole thing. And then, the scenes and the backdrop of the book were pretty easy to write too, just from my experience. So
Right.
I kind of rolled with it and let it go and see what happened.
Well, they always tell you to write from what you know, right?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. But at the same time, I wouldn't tell people to shy away from their imagination, because if you told J.K. Rowling that, then Harry Potter would never be
I
invented.
don't
But
know. I'm convinced that J.K. Rowling actually went to a wizard school. Actually,
she lives inside of Hogwarts, doesn't she?
I'm pretty sure she does. Because to have the kind of career that woman had or has, there's some magic going on there, I think.
Yeah, she's amazing. She is absolutely amazing.
So, who are some of your, maybe J.K. Rowling, we don't know, but who are some of your inspirations in this work?
In the writing world, I'm definitely a big Rowling fan.
Uh-huh.
C.S. Lewis I'm a big fan of C.S. Lewis.
Yeah,
I'm a huge proponent for fantasy. I love that world, and I eventually will get there as well. But I wanted to write from what I know, like you had mentioned.
yeah,
So those are probably the two biggest. And then I like Lee Child a lot with the Jack Reacher series.
right.
And then there's a couple other action people that I like. Vince Flynn, who's a fellow Minnesotan. So yeah, those are kind of the people that I really like to dig into.
Yeah, and you've named some authors that I'm actually kind of fond of. It's interesting. The big advice you always get as an indie author, at least, is to kind of stick to stick to the one that brung you, basically, and
Right.
stick with that genre. But I'm actually seeing people kind of branch out a little more. Do you have? You haven't yet. I mean, you've got your two books, and I think you're on the right track. But when you do decide to kind of dip your toes into fantasy, are you going to do sort of a crossover? Maybe stick with sports a little and get a little into the fantasy world, or are you just going to just jump right in with both feet?
I'm going to jump in with both feet. And I'm not a person to shy away from a challenge, and
Right,
I'm a person that has a pretty thick skin, which I think you have to playing sports, otherwise you'd never make it.
right,
Which has worked really well with my first two books, or even my first book, because I didn't know if I really wanted people to see it. But then, I had to have somebody see it if I wanted people to read it. So, but as far as fantasy goes, I definitely have an idea, and I've been creating the world, so to speak, over the past couple years, ever since I completed that first novel or the first
yeah.
story that I wrote. So that will come. That will come probably a couple books later. I'm actually about a third of the way into my third baseball novel. I have a novella that will come out, and essentially in conjunction with Sitting Dead Red. It'll be about a week or two late. That I will be giving away for free on my website. That's a completely original story. So there's four stories that will be in that baseball genre before I move on to something else.
All right, that's always a good plan. What's your general turnaround with these books? How long is it taking you to write them?
The baseball ones, you'd be surprised. The baseball ones take me about 4 months.
Okay,
For a first draft, cover to cover, 4 months. And then I kind of really dive into the rewrites, and then getting it in front of my editor. And then, she usually takes about 4 weeks to do it, and then get it beta tested. So the whole process, the first one, Paint the Black, came out June of 2015. And then Sitting Dead Red will come out next week. And then hopefully my third one will come out in October. So it'll be every 8 months for those novels.
are you when you've got one sort of in the can, do you just move on to the next, or while it's in edit, or how do you stack them up?
Pretty much, as soon as I'm done with the rights or the rewrites of the first draft, I move on to the next one.
Right.
There's ideas that I might have going throughout the entire process of writing, say, Sitting Dead Red. I would have been like, oh, well, I want to do this in the next book. So then
Right.
I kind of, might jot some ideas down. But definitely after that first draft and the rewrite's over, I'm on to the next one.
Okay. So I'm assuming that the titles of your books are references to sports terms, right? That I don't
Correct.
apparently don't know
Correct. So
what they mean.
no problem. So Paint the Black what it means is it's a pitching term to paint or to pitch on the outside or inside corner.
Okay.
So the actual home plate itself is black underneath the base, and then the white of it, the top of it is white. So The black actually comes through, or you can see it if you get real close to home plate. But paint the black means to pitch on the inside or the outside part of the plate.
Okay.
And then sitting dead red is a hitting term, and what that basically means is you're sitting on a specific pitch in a specific location. It mainly is a fastball. Probably 99% of the time, it's a fastball in a hitter's count that you're looking to drive somewhere. So sitting dead red just means that you're expecting the pitcher. You know the pitch is coming.
Sports may be second only to military for its wealth of jargon you can use for titles.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, I kind of regret actually that I don't have a soft pitch when it comes to titles. I don't have things I can draw on like that. It wasn't a part of anything that had a whole bunch of terminology I could draw from. Not really. Nothing anybody would care about.
I'm sure you do fine though. You have a stout imagination.
Oh yeah, I'll come up with a good title. It just doesn't always get to tie in with some kind of metaphor. So
Gotcha.
That's unfortunate. So let's talk a little bit about how you're marketing your work. I assume you're doing okay. I mean, are you doing this full time, or is this kind of just a side gig right now, or how you?
So right now I have a 4-year-old son and
Okay.
a 5-month-old daughter. So my writing basically is worked around their schedules.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not a full-time gig, but that's the dream. That's what I'm trying to aspire to be, as a full-time author. And with 2 books out, it's not necessarily a reality until further down the line. So
Right.
that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build up my craft and my portfolio to essentially become that.
Yeah.
As far as marketing goes, I've marketed on a few different websites, promotional websites. Haven't necessarily seen a great return on my investment, but that was my fault because I didn't do the homework prior to going onto those websites to
Right.
pay for that time. So that's what I would highly recommend to anybody out there looking into doing promotion stuff is make sure that your book and your genre fits into their field of work.
Right.
And then KDP, I'm on KDP and KDP Select, so I've done some free days. And the countdown deal has been good. Excuse me. And then I'm going to do a big ad on Facebook. I'm actually really excited about doing Facebook stuff because essentially what it is it's going to build your mailing list.
Yeah.
And the mailing list is crucial and paramount just because of the fact that you can have fans potentially forever and that's the reason why I'm giving away the free novella on my website is because I can have those people get the free novella, and then I also have an opportunity to get some other deals with my other work. So the Facebook ad is going to be crucial.
Yeah.
And then as far as other promotional stuff, I've done quite a few book signings, podcasts, and thank you, Kevin, for having me on. But
of course, yeah. You can, by the way, you can repay me by suggesting podcasts I can appear on, so I can promote my own stuff.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's
No
an
worries.
aside.
Those are probably the biggest things as far as marketing stuff goes.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've been getting good advice. I mean, that's the stuff that, my partners and I tell people all the time on, self-publishing answers and creative writing careers. So you've got the right track, I think. Where do you turn for advice on marketing your work?
Well, I'm part of a writers group here in the Denver area.
Okay.
So we actually have our second annual conference coming up here in a couple weeks, the end of February, which I'll be speaking at, which will be great. But that writers group has been awesome for me. They've a lot of groups, or a lot of people in the group are nonfiction writers, and there's a few fiction writers as well, but able to go to them for some advice and some editing. That's actually where I found my editor.
Yeah.
Through our group. So she's been great for me. So it's been really cool to be able to bounce some ideas off of people that are much more seasoned in the writing world than I am.
Yeah. Groups they're just an endless source of great material, actually, and great ideas. I'm really glad to be a part of the ones I'm a part of. I've got some really good ones, actually, so I lucked out. But so are you, through those groups, I mean, are you connecting to people, is there anyone you're connecting to that's in the traditional publishing industry at all? Because I know Denver is a big publishing sort of mecca.
Yes, there is. There's been quite a few people that we have as speakers that come into the group as well that are in that traditionally published world.
Right.
And I am not opposed to doing traditional publishing.
Oh no.
I would definitely consider that in the future for sure. So yeah, there's absolutely people that we talk to and we're able to bounce ideas off that are in that world as well.
Right. So that's got to be helpful.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, a lot of people, some of the people that have read my stuff too ask me why I didn't go traditional or even try to go traditional because I didn't send out one query letter.
Right.
The reason why I did that is because after looking into it, you can, I'm sure you're well aware, is you can get more royalties from your own work as a self-publisher through KDP and CreateSpace or however you publish your works.
Right.
But there is an obvious advantage to having a publishing house. But I didn't want any creative process from my work to be taken out because like I said earlier, it is basically my own story. So
Yeah.
I wanted all that to kind of be my own and hold that close to the chest.
Right. I think that by the way, I'm also not opposed to going traditional. That's one of my goals for this year is to make deeper contacts in that industry and kind of explore that as an option. But the advantages of indie publishing, I think there is the bigger royalty, but there's also the chance to kind of experiment and try something new while also building an audience. I think the traditional publishing world really respects if you can come in with some marketing savvy and a platform. So I think that's a big advantage. So I think you're on the right track anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, from what I've heard from people that are both in the traditional published world as well as others, it's even difficult to get your book noticed from a traditional publisher if you don't already have a following.
Right. Exactly.
And the fact that, you're doing a lot of the marketing yourself with a publishing house as well. So, I mean, as a self-published author, if you have that knowledge or you have that understanding going into it, you could be a lot more successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So hopefully, well, here's to your success in that, by the way. I hope you land something there. And I think you're definitely on the right track. You're following that sort of, we'll call it the formula of, create a website, put up a registration form, offer a freebie, get people on the mailing list. The mailing list really is key. Are you, how's that going for you? Are you able to build up? I know you're going to do the Facebook ad, but how's it going for you in other, avenues?
So far it's slow, but at the same time, I wasn't really expecting much because I had my blog, basically started my blog, and I've only started really writing in the writing world for the past year.
Okay.
So I think it's been okay. But I hope that it grows substantially over the next year, especially with 2 more novels out in the novella.
Right.
That's the goal. So we'll see how that works. If we talk in a year from now, and then I can give you a little bit more information on that. But yeah, I feel it can't really go anywhere but up.
Already trying to book a year out.
That's right. Trying to come back, Kevin. If you'll have
I don't blame you. So okay, what's the next book on the board? Is it the fiction? I mean, the fantasy book, or are you going to do? By the way, is this a series?
No,
I didn't ask you.
Each book is individual. It's
Okay.
its own story. It's its own character. They're not related at all. The third book is most likely going to be entitled "Chasing the Dream."
Okay.
It's a working title, but again, it's a baseball book, and that book is, like I said, I'm about a third of the way through it right now, and it's turned into like kind of a mystery.
Okay.
Not that the other two, I mean, the other two could really read as mysteries if you read the synopsis of both of them, but the third one, it is, I think, kind of a thriller mystery type edge to it, as well as the baseball theme. So it's turning out to be pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Do you have the cool quirky title yet, or is that secret?
Yeah, Chasing the Dream will be the.
Oh, Chasing the Dream. You did say that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was waiting to hear some obscure baseball term I didn't know.
That I might not rule that out
Yeah.
right now, but like I said, the Chasing the Dream is potentially the at least working title right now.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. All right. So this kind of fascinates me, honestly. I just don't encounter people who write in this type of genre. And what do you label this genre? Like, how are you labeling yourself on Amazon?
I'm a fascinating individual. Um, I basically it's basically in the sports genre. I mean that's a category in
Yeah.
Amazon, but like you said, I mean there's not a lot of outside of the Art of Fielding that came out a couple years ago, that was a huge success on Amazon, and both for the author that wrote that, and then
Right.
you know older, The Natural comes to mind because The Natural is a classic, not only a classic book but a classic
Exactly.
movie.
Yeah.
So realistically, there's only a handful of books that are even out there written in the sports world. And I actually heard somewhere, I don't remember where I read it or who it was, but she had mentioned that the smaller the ball, the better the fiction.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tend to agree with her. I'm a golfer and I'm a huge fan of golf. But baseball, there's just so much stigma and majesty around the sport.
Yeah.
It lends itself to an excellent backdrop for any novel.
Yeah.
So as far as, like I said, as far as the genre goes, it's definitely labeled under sports fiction, and then family life in the second one because it's got a lot to do with family and some struggles throughout the Sitting Dead Red, the second book. So they're labeled in those genres, but there can be subgenres as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned family actually earlier, and you're writing around the young kids. So how are you balancing all that? Like, how do you find, when's your prime writing time, and how do you set aside the time to write?
I both my wife and I work out of the house. I run a nonprofit as well,
Okay.
but I can kind of make my own hours with that. And then my wife works out of the house too. So my schedule for writing is I stick to it basically every single day, and I have to, because if I'm not diligent about it, I'll never get my work done.
Right.
But their nap schedules are between 1 and 3. So it's awesome that they coincide with each other. And that's the time that I set aside that I really need to get my work done. So I try to set a goal of 1,000 words a day. And I sometimes go far above that, and sometimes I go below that. But that's definitely the goal that I want to head into each day with.
Yeah. So you want to give your nonprofit a shout out?
Yeah, sure. My nonprofit's called Game Day International. And then Game Day Baseball Camps is a subsidiary company of that. And we do baseball camps and clinics here locally in the Denver area.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I've seen baseball camps. They offer that sort of thing around here. I mean, it's Houston, Texas area. It's mostly football here, but there's a big baseball crowd. I grew up in a big baseball area because Nolan Ryan grew up in the town kind of next door to us. So
Okay. You got a great school in Rice right next to you too. That's excellent in baseball.
I do. Yeah, the Rice is actually you hear about them all the time. So I kind of regret I didn't go to Rice actually now. So what? Speaking of education, I mean, how you went to school for the coaching and you played baseball and that sort of thing. Was writing a part of your academic life,
Um,
other than the typical, write this English paper kind of thing?
short answer, no.
Right.
Creative writing didn't really hit me. I didn't really hit that bug until probably 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
I had written some nonfiction stuff for some coaching websites and pitching websites and stuff when I was coaching, and then did some stuff for our website as well when I was coaching. But as far as fiction stuff goes, no, I wasn't really a creative writer until just recently. I kind of grew up as a songwriter because I've played guitar my whole life and still
Oh,
love to do
okay.
that. So did that a lot. So it was kind of creative in that standpoint. My undergrad was in sports management and marketing.
Oh, okay. Very
So
handy. Yeah.
far away. Yeah. Well, 2004 is a long way away from marketing of 2016.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, that was my undergrad, and then I have a master's degree in education. So
Okay. Me
my
too.
go ahead.
No, I was just, I also have a master's degree in education. That's all.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, I mean, so creative writing, it's always been, I guess, a part of me, and I'm a huge movie buff. I've loved movies my whole life, so I've always loved that strange fiction,
Yeah.
uh, fantasy, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff has very intriguing to me. We had mentioned Harry Potter, so
Yeah.
I love that world. So I've always been kind of creative in that standpoint, and wanted to be like those people that could come up with those books. So yeah, that's definitely where I was.
That's interesting. I mean, it just, it's odd. It's not odd, I guess. I mean, it's not all that
I'm an
unusual,
odd
but
person.
yeah, you're an odd, fascinating person. Now we've established all of it.
Right.
But the idea that now you have an active interest in writing fiction is just not the kind of thing you hear from, I was a former baseball coach and now I write fiction.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to people that know me best, I don't know that they would necessarily think that I would be an author. And
Yeah.
a few years ago, and they're like, even I wouldn't have thought that I would be where I am today.
Yeah.
And just, but I've put in a lot of work and a lot of time into it, and I'm trying to put out the best product I can for all my fans and all the people that I know.
Right.
And so yeah, it's been I definitely think people can be made in a profession that they really want or have a drive and a goal and a determination to do it, especially if it's something that they were meant to do.
Yeah.
So I feel like anybody can kind of get the job done if there's persistence behind it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hard. It's not just hard work either. It's also that idea of I'm going to come back to this even when it's not fun.
Right. Right.
So, is your wife pretty supportive of this whole thing?
She is. I'm a dreamer for sure. If you couldn't tell already, but I've had numerous ideas in my life as to what I was going to do or what I was going to be, and she's very supportive throughout the whole process. And we've been blessed in where we're at with her job, and then as well as our family situation. So she's been very supportive, and she's liking what she's reading so far.
Good. Is she kind of your first reader?
No,
No.
not at all. She won't
I'm with you, brother. My wife, my
touch my
wife
books.
is not my first reader.
She
Good.
won't touch my books until they're professionally edited.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, that's a good policy.
so yeah, I mean she's like I said, very supportive, but she's not the first critic when it comes to. So my editor is the first person who gets their hands on it before or after I'm done.
I see. All right, but once it's written, I mean, once it's published, she's okay with it.
Yes.
Loads it up
Yes.
on the Kindle and starts reading. That's
Yes.
good. At least you got that kind of support. I'm still
Right.
trying to convince my wife to read a couple of my books, which is unfair to her. She actually reads everything. She's just overwhelmed with books at this point.
Yeah, that happens.
It does happen. So, other than, well, I think we already talked about who you like to read. You're big into fantasy, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like I said, I just it's just fascinating to me that people can come up with the worlds and
Yeah,
the characters that they do. And I'm excited because I saw that today. I think that Harry Potter 8 is coming
yeah.
out, so I'm pretty ecstatic.
That blew my mind. Like, what could it possibly be about at this
Right,
point?
right. So yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, as far as fantasy goes, I've always been kind of a crazed person when it comes to the fantasy world, just because, like I said, it's amazing to me what people can come up with and actually put it to page and then really describe it in a way that people can understand it is probably the
Yeah.
most I don't know the best thing about it.
Are you world building? I mean, are you kind of preparing, whatever world your characters will occupy for your fantasy work?
Yes, I can kind of tell you. I mean, without
I
giving it,
don't want to press you for details for a book you haven't even started yet, but you you can tell me anything you like.
it's actually done. But
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna rewrite the whole thing, so it's not. I guess it's not done, but it is done.
Right.
It's partially written. But as far as worlds go, yes. I mean, the character is definitely going to be inside of something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be from my imagination and building things that hopefully people can understand and follow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see it. And it's not that I am not a big fan of the sports fiction. I have your book, by the way, and I have to apologize, but with the quick turnaround, I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing. So it will be read.
Excellent.
I really wanted to read it before we had the interview, but I started it and then, we had to basically schedule this over like 2 days so that I could try to get it in before, at least close to your release date for the second book. So
Yeah,
we'll take care of that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm anxious to hear what your comments are and what you say.
Well, I'm kind of intrigued, and like I said, what does it for me a lot of the times is, regardless of subject matter, the cover will sometimes pull me in, which is proof positive, by the way, of that adage. It's proof positive that the adage of "don't judge a book by its cover" is complete bunk. The cover really is that important. So, good work.
It is. It's crucial. It's yeah. Like I said, I mean, I had mentioned earlier too that I'll be teaching at that conference, and one of the things I'm going to really try to drive home with people is the fact that you have to have a professional book cover.
Yeah.
I mean, you might think it looks great, your family might think it looks great, your friends, but at the same time, is your reader going to think it looks good, and are they going to click on it to see what the book is about?
Right. Exactly. So how's reader response? I mean, I'm kind of combing through your reviews right now. It looks pretty good. It looks like you've got quite a few 4 and 5 star reviews. 1 3-star review. We'll have to have that guy taken out and beaten.
Oh, no problem. I expect the 3-star reviews. No, but I mean, yeah, I've had the majority, like you said, 4 or 5 stars. It's been great response so far from the readers, and in a couple of the reviews that you may or may not have read so far. Mm-hmm. Were from Australia. One was from England, and people that had never heard of the sport, but never read the sport, and had really loved the story. And that to me makes me get excited and makes me want to write more, because if you're not a baseball fan, but yet you still really like the novel or love the novel, then I've done my job.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's been pretty cool.
Do you think that there's a little bit of sort of the curiosity from those groups who have heard of baseball but may not know anything about it? I mean, is that kind of a draw for some people?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. To kind of drum on there, to go on to that point, my editor is not a baseball fan. I guess I don't know if she is a baseball fan, but she's not versed in the sport. So it was really cool to get her perspective, saying, I don't get this situation. Can you elaborate? And then I was able to elaborate to a person who might not know the sport as well as I do.
Yeah.
So they can really understand and grasp what I'm trying to say. So I tried to write it with the end reader in mind, so a person that wouldn't know about the sport understands, and a person who's well versed in the sport really kind of grasps the depth of how the scenes are written.
Yeah, that's actually good advice for anybody writing. I think it would be good if every writer found an editor who didn't quite know the subject they were writing about. I think, because then you're forced to kind of reconsider some things and explain it. They need to be kind of within your audience, I think, but who knows? Sometimes you get lucky. So, all right. So, is your editor, by the way, is she kind of doing like developmental editing, or is it just copy editing, fixing typos, and that sort of thing?
She did both.
Okay.
She was a person that was able to go through the entire manuscript, and the first manuscript, and even the second manuscript that I got back was blood red, which was a little frightening and daunting at times, but it was cool to get that back and really understand that she's not only doing her job, but there's stuff that needs to be worked on. So she did the whole copy edit process, and then developmental wise with characters and scenes. And stuff like that. So she was able to do both for me. Her name is Deb Hall, and she was awesome throughout the process.
How'd you find her?
She was in my writers group.
Okay.
So she was there. She was able to, or I met her probably 2 years ago, because our group's been going for about 2 years now. And then contacted her, asked her if she'd be interested in doing it, and she was. So it was a good match.
Excellent. That's always good. I've had success finding editors online, through Upwork or sites like that, but I don't know any in person. I know plenty of people who claim to be editors, but then when I see some of their work, I'm not really going to turn it over to them.
Yeah, right.
So good editors are hard to find. So
yeah, they are.
All right. Well, we're kind of at the bleeding edge here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. But I really appreciate you stopping in and chatting with me, man. And I'm intrigued by what you're doing. this whole idea, and I don't know why it's so fascinating to me. I'm not even a sports guy, but the whole idea of sports fiction is kind of just interesting to me, mostly because I guess I don't read that genre yet. So now I've got something kind of new to occupy my brain. So thanks for
Yeah,
that.
I hope you have more friends that are like you.
Well, I do too, actually. But I'm sure I have plenty of people. I know plenty of people I think that would be very interested in this anyway. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. So we'll check it out. All right. Well, thanks so much for hooking up with us, everybody. Go make sure you check out his website. It's JD. I'm sorry, I'll butcher it at least once. Let's try it. JD Dudycha.
You got it.
I got it. JDDudycha.com. Go check that out. You can connect with him on Twitter at JDDudycha, at JDDudycha. You'll find links to all this in the show notes, and including links to where you can actually purchase his books. Paint the Black. I almost said Into the Black. I knew I was going to do that at least once too. Paint the Black and Sitting Dead Red. And I can't wait to see more of what you come up with, man. I'm kind of looking forward to the fantasy stuff now. I want to see the world development.
Yeah, you will see it. That's one thing that too that I was looking to as far as publishing houses go, and that's more of a genre too that fits into a broader scope than sports fiction. So that's kind of the goal, or the which direction at least that I would try to head into once that gets going.
Yeah. It's always good to have something commercially viable. So,
Absolutely.
all right. And actually, frankly, I think the sports books actually might have that market too. You should start, shipping some things around, man. Just see what you get.
We will see what happens.
All right. If you're listening, publishers, you can definitely get hold of JD now and publish any of his work, I'm sure. So take care, JD. I appreciate you being on the show. Everyone else, stick around for the wrapper, and we'll get everything all nice and settled for you. See you next week. Well, that was JD Dudycha. Sports isn't something I really ever thought about as a topic of fiction. I don't know why. There are tons of sports movies out there, and there's lots of sports fiction already in existence. And, sports is one of those things that can be very inspirational to people. So it should occur to me. And maybe that's something I should explore someday, which would be interesting, because then it would be a sort of an investigative piece for me. Like, I'd have to go and discover a lot more about the various sports that are available. Sportsing. All right, so enough of my nerdness. Thanks for tuning in this week. Again, if you'd like to help support the show, I really do appreciate it. You can visit wordslingerpodcast.com. Look for the Patreon logo. It's pretty much everywhere. If you find it on the homepage, you can click through there. You can also find it on each individual podcast episode on that site. Just click on the logo at the bottom. It says support the show. And you can click on the link in the menu bar. So all those will take you to the same place. It's basically just the Patreon page that has a little video from me to you to tell you a little bit about the show and what I'm trying to accomplish. I am trying to hit that $5,000 a month goal. That's not something I think I'll hit like this month or anything, but hey, if you like the show enough and you got $5,000 you want to throw my way, I'm not gonna fight you. I won't fight you. Thank you. I'd appreciate it also if you would help people discover the show, and the best way to do that is to go on iTunes and leave a review and rate the show. I love when I get 4 and 5 star reviews, so if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and do that for me, and that will help people actually discover the Word Slinger podcast. If you feel like this show offers any value at all, I hope you'll at least do that. I know sometimes we get busy, we forget to do little things like that, and it's one more task you have to add to your day. So I want to let you know how much I really just appreciate that, because the people who leave reviews, I mean, so far you guys are amazing, and I feel like what I do makes a difference when I see a positive review on iTunes or Stitcher. So thank you so much in advance for helping to spread the word. Feel free to share the show with anyone you know. Feel free to share the books, links to the books to anyone you know, and I look forward to, and contact me, because I do this for you. So I'd like to hear from you every now and then. We can shape this show together. Give me a call at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And that will let you leave me a voicemail directly. You can also go to wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can leave me an email if you prefer, and I like those too. There's a contact form right on the website. You can also click, there's a SpeakPipe button. And I think Google Chrome recently enacted something that kind of disables that for Chrome users. I'm working on that. I think there's something I can do. I was told there was something I could do on my end to make that easier. If that's not working, I apologize. But you can still call me at 281-809-9673 and leave me a voicemail anytime you like. So take care of yourselves out there, everyone. Oh, by the way, I just realized you can text me at that number, I believe. Give it a shot. Let's try it. 281-809-WORD, 281-809-9673. Send me a text message and let me know what you're thinking. So take care of yourselves out there. Thank you so much for your support and for tuning in every week. I hope I'm doing something good for you. And God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
Word Slinger.